What's up, guys? Welcome to the Elephant Room for the first weekly preview of the season. I'm Taylor. I'm going to take a look at some things that have happened earlier this week, some of the coaches' press conferences, some of the players' press conferences, and then I'm going to take a look forward to this ULM game we have coming up on Saturday. It's the first home game of the year on Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I'm going to take a look at some of those things, some things I'd like to see, some things I'd like to see us improve on, some things that I'm going to be looking for, some players that were injured last week or were injured coming into the season that may be getting some playing time, or we may have to wait for the Wisconsin game, but I'm going to be looking for them out there. We're going to talk about all that. All right. So let's get to it. The first thing I'm going to talk about are these coach press conferences that have happened earlier this week, mainly the ones on Monday. And I want to talk mainly about Kane Womack's press conference. And in particular, he said that our defense was not surprised by anything that Florida State's offense put out on the field on Saturday. And that's concerning to me because, as we all know, our defense didn't look like they had any idea what was going on. All right. And that's very concerning to me because what that indicates to me is that our coaching staff has a problem motivating these guys to play football. And I think we saw that last year too. Uh, we come out and we beat Georgia. And then we come out the next week and we play uninspired football. And we lose to Vanderbilt. We go to LSU. We beat LSU by a lot. And then we go to Oklahoma not too long after and we play uninspired football and we lose to Oklahoma. We come out at the end of the regular season. We have that long break for the bowl games. And look, I understand that bowl games really don't mean anything anymore, realistically, but they haven't meant anything for a while. They really haven't meant anything since the playoffs started. And even then, Coach Saban was able to get guys motivated for bowl games. It still meant something to them. And look, I don't want to compare our coaching staff right now to Saban. That's not my intention. All I'm saying is that those are games that our players should be motivated for. Yeah, they don't matter, but it still matters to the fans. It should still matter to the players. It should still matter to the coaches. But we came out against Michigan last year and we played uninspired football and we lost to a Michigan team that we had no business losing to. So I'm concerned for this coaching staff and their ability to motivate players because the offseason is another one of those examples. We should have been motivated for this game, and we weren't. We should have been motivated coming into this game to play our butts off, and we weren't. We went out there and we jogged to the ball. We went out there and we made poor tackles. We missed the tackles because we didn't put effort into the tackles. We just played uninspired football. And we've seen this before from this coaching staff. We need to see this coaching staff going forward learn how to motivate these guys. All right. Because I think last year in the games where we played the most motivated, it was more the players motivating themselves. And look, these coaches, they know how to coach football. We know they know how to coach football. Kalen DeBoer knows how to coach football. Ryan Grubb knows how to coach football. They wouldn't have made the national championship game a couple of years ago if they didn't know how to coach football. All right. We wouldn't have got up 28-0 against Georgia if they didn't know how to coach football. We wouldn't have destroyed LSU at home if they didn't know how to coach football. Our problem is that our coaches cannot motivate these guys to come out and play like they should every single week. All right. Our game plans last year were good when the guys were motivated to execute. We need to see this coaching staff come out and motivate these guys to play good football every single week for the rest of the season because I believe that we had a really good team last season. And I believe that we have a really good team this season. Talent-wise, we definitely have a really good team this season. The question is, are they going to come out and play with the effort that they need to show off their talent, for that talent to matter? Because if they come out and they play uninspired football like they did last Saturday, the talent's just not going to matter. And we're going to have a bad season because we've got a real tough schedule this season, y'all. We need to see our coaches inspire the players. And if they can't learn how to do it this season, then these may not be the coaches for us. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get rid of them. Kalen DeBoer's got a $60 million buyout, and we live in the age of the NIL. We're not going to see Alabama fire this guy with a $60 million buyout. It's just not going to happen. We're stuck with this guy no matter how he does. All right? We need to get behind him, but he also needs to show us that he can inspire these players, or we need to be preparing for what's to come in the next several years. All right? I'm hoping he will show us that he can learn how to motivate these players. I don't think he's got that ability right now. We need to see that going forward. All right. And, the players, they said they played scared, and that's part of it. Look, they're scared to mess up. Look, players were scared to mess up for certain games throughout Saban's career, too. All right. There's no way to prevent that. Sometimes you're going to come out and just play scared. All right. And Gus Malzahn's offense, you can't come out and play scared. If there's any offense in college football where you cannot come out and play scared, it's Gus Malzahn's offense, right? So that didn't bode well for us. All right, look, we need our coaches to be able to motivate the players and instill confidence in our players so that they're not going out there and playing scared, but they're also going out there and playing with the effort that they need to play with. All right. That's all I have to say about that. The other thing is DeBoer's statements today, actually, as of my shooting this, DeBoer's statements about the boosters. All right. The other day, an article came out talking about booster unrest at Alabama. And DeBoer talked about how he was thankful that the boosters had given him the leeway that he needs to coach this football program. All right. And I agree with him on that. All right. Regardless of how he's performing, all right, you can say what you want about that. We cannot have our boosters come in and take a more active role in this football program. We saw what happened when Auburn's boosters did that. We cannot have that. We just cannot have that. All right. If you think it's bad this year, we don't know what our record's going to be, but if it turns out bad this year, if you think it can't get worse, it can. And the way it gets worse is if our boosters go in there and start trying to control this football program and take that control away from the head coach. I don't care how bad the head coach is doing. All right. We have seen Auburn's boosters absolutely destroy their program by firing Gus Malzahn because he wasn't doing good enough for their taste. All right. And they haven't hired a coach as good as him ever since. All right. We cannot have our boosters come in and do the same thing here. All right. I understand they pay a lot of money. All right. I understand that they deserve to have a say. I get it. We need to do everything in our power as fans to discourage them from taking a more active role in this football program. And I don't know what power we have to do that, but we need to do it, whatever it is. All right. We have watched Auburn destroy their program over this. It can get worse if the boosters start meddling in the program. So I absolutely agree with DeBoer when he says that they have given him the ability to focus on football. They haven't meddled with him. That's great. That's great. No matter how bad he does, that's great. We need to keep on that track. All right. All right. So those are the major things that I had about those press conferences. All right. I want to take some time, not too long here, and just talk about this ULM game coming up. All right. Look, this ULM team, they ran the ball last weekend. All right. FSU ran the ball. This ULM team also ran the ball. All right. This is not a game that we need to go into with too much overconfidence. Look, we played bad last week, especially on defense. All right. We cannot go into this game with too much confidence. This team, this ULM team, had 434 total yards, and 311 of those were rushing yards. All right. Their quarterback was 14 for 26 for 123 yards, and he had an interception. All right. This is not a team that's going to thrive off of passing the football. All right. We need to be aware of that because that's the type of team that has killed us in these last 2 seasons. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Michigan, and FSU on Saturday. We need to be aware of this ULM team. But if we are aware of them, if we don't go in with too much confidence, we go in there and we do what we're supposed to do, like we're supposed to do it, like I was just talking about, this could be a really good opportunity for our coaches to allow these players to gain some of their confidence back. All right. So that's the first thing I want to see from this game. I want to see us shut down the run. All right. I need to see us shut down the run with this defense. Yes, it's ULM. I get it. Okay. This is a team that, they beat us in 2007, but this is a team that realistically, on talent alone, we should not be losing to. Let's just be honest. But we need to see us shut down the run convincingly. All right. Not just shut it down, but shut it down convincingly. We need to take a team that is running the ball, that ran the ball really well. And look, they played St. Francis from Pennsylvania, but who is probably going to be out of D1 if they're even in D1 right now. But we need to see our team shut down the run. All right. This is a perfect opportunity for that. Team had over 400 yards on offense, and 3/4 of it was rushing yards. This is a great opportunity for our defense to regain some confidence against the run going into the rest of this season. All right. Because teams know they can run the ball against us. All right. We're going to be seeing it all year long. All right. This defense needs something to restore that confidence. So I want to see us go out there and shut down the run completely. All right. I'd like to see ULM have less than 100 rushing yards. That's a tall task for a team that focuses on running. I would love to see ULM have less than 100 rushing yards. I don't believe it'll happen. I think they'll have more than that. I hope they won't have much more than that with the guys that we got on defense. But I would like to see this team have less than 100 rushing yards. If they pass the ball, fine. All right. I want to see our defense stop the thing that they have been unable to stop all last year and so far this year. That's what I want to see on defense. We shut down the run from a run-heavy team. All right, that's the first thing I want to see. The next thing I want to see is I want to see Ty Simpson making quicker decisions. He made some good decisions, all right, but he needs to make those decisions quicker, all right? And part of that is the offensive line, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, but I want to see him make quicker decisions. There was a 4th down. It was a 4th and long that we went for, and he had the option to run the ball, and he had green grass ahead of him all the way to the 1st down marker and about 5 yards beyond that. And he chose to pass the ball, and the ball ended up landing at the tight end's feet, and we didn't get the 1st down. when he should have run from it. That's a decision he needs to make quicker, and he needs to be able to make the right decisions there. Now, look, he's a first time starter this year. All right. There's going to be some growing pains there. All right. I get that. Those are decisions he's going to have to be able to make this season. All right. Those are decisions he's going to have to be able to make this season. There was another one where he had Ryan Williams. He might have been able to throw the ball sooner. I think he probably could have thrown the ball sooner. Ryan Williams was in between the zones. All right. He was between the linebackers and the safeties. And he had a lot of green grass between him and the nearest Florida State defender. Ty could have put that in there like he almost did. All right. I think if he had had time to throw it, he would have made a good decision, or it would have been a good throw there. But we got to see him make that decision sooner and drop that ball in there sooner, because if he had done that, that would have been a first down. It ended up being, I think on that play, it ended up being a fourth down if it wasn't a fourth down conversion, where he got hit. He had time. He had a lot of time on that play. Ryan Williams had to come from the other side of the field. He got all the way across the field before the throw. And by the time the throw was made, Ty got hit as he threw. All right. He had time on that play. That was not the offensive line's fault there. He had time. He just didn't make the throw fast enough. We got to see him make decisions like that sooner. We got to see him make throws like that sooner. All right. Because that would have been a huge play for us. That would have put us in a great position to score on that drive. If he had been able to get that ball off, even with the late decision, if he had been able to get a good ball off there, Ryan Williams is scoring a touchdown on that play. There was nobody there that would have been able to catch him. All right. So we just need to see him make those decisions a little bit sooner there in instances where he has time, and we need to see him make better decisions on the run. All right. I'd like to see fewer throws on the run from him this week. And part of that is on the offensive line. Part of that's on Ty. He did not throw well on the run last week. He missed a lot of throws on the run. He's not always going to be able to run the ball. If he's going to make a throw, I would rather, based on what I saw last week, I would rather see him throw the ball away. It's tough to do that sometimes on third, even fourth down. But, some of those bad throws could lead to interceptions later on this year. They didn't last week, but they could in the future. All right. Just throw the ball away or try to run the ball should be his thought process when he's on the run. So I'd like to see him make better decisions in that regard as well. The next thing I'd like to see is I want to see us get more receivers involved. In the press conference, they asked Ryan Grubb about our receivers. We almost exclusively threw, as far as receivers, we threw to the tight end some, but as far as receivers, we almost exclusively went to Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. And part of that was Isaiah Horton getting hurt, but, we almost exclusively went to those two guys. We had Rico Scott. We hit him for a touchdown. That's great, but we had a lot of targets to those two guys and not a lot of targets to anybody else. We need to see more of these receivers getting involved. I think this is a good week to do it. We just need to see more of our guys getting involved. All right. It can't just be those two guys. That's not going to work long term. It might work against some teams. It's not going to work for the whole season. All right. Especially not with teams like Georgia on the schedule. All right. We're going to need to get some more guys involved. And I think we will. On this one, I do think we'll be able to achieve that. I don't know if we'll achieve it this game, but I think we will achieve it. So I'd like to see us do a little bit more of that. All right. Get these guys involved. Get the tight ends involved even more. All right. I love seeing an offense that can use their tight ends. All right. It is a huge weapon when you're able to do that. So get those guys involved, get our other receivers involved, and, of course, get Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams involved. Just get everybody else involved, too. Mix it up. build schemes that get everybody involved. All right. Don't let other teams key in on Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard because they will. And when they do, we're going to struggle just like we did on Saturday. Now, I'm not saying that's why we struggled on offense on Saturday, but it probably contributed when you're throwing to two guys the vast majority of the time that you're trying to throw the ball. You know, we just need to do a better job getting guys involved. You know, as for the offensive line, look, our offensive line needs to do better, especially Caden Proctor. Look, Caden Proctor got destroyed on Friday. I think I read the stats today. He had 6 hurries. He gave up 6 hurries and a sack and a tackle for loss on top of that. He got destroyed, man. That just can't happen. The dude's a projected top draft pick. It just can't happen, man. You know, this has been going on for years now. Every year we hear, oh, the offensive line's going to be great. The offensive line's full of monsters. They're going to destroy people this year. And then we come out, and the offensive line is terrible. We got to get that figured out, man. So I'm going to be looking for Caden Proctor to have a better day. I'm going to be looking for the offensive line as a whole to have a better day. It's ULM. You know, I don't expect these guys to get manhandled by ULM, but I have seen it in the past couple of years where we've gotten manhandled by teams like this on the offensive line. I'm going to be looking for the offensive line to have a better game than they've had in a while, I would hope. They've got to. If we're going to have a good season, they've got to. Because I don't believe Ty Simpson can be successful if we don't have a good run game. And that's the next point here. We've got to establish the run. Look, we had 87 yards rushing against Florida State. 55 of those yards came on the very first drive of the ball game. We had 55 yards rushing on the first drive of the ball game. And we went away from it and ended up with 87 yards rushing in the entire game. And the coaches in the press conferences say, you know, okay, we got down. Okay, Florida State made adjustments. But number one, if your game plan is working, you can't abandon it in the first quarter. We got down early, and they abandoned the run early. By the second drive, they weren't running the ball anymore. And we weren't even down. We were tied. They had already abandoned the scheme. Now, look, we were throwing some pass plays that were working well. But we had basically already abandoned the run, and we never went back to it the whole game. After 55 yards of a 75-yard drive being run plays on the first drive. You just can't do that. You can't do that. I don't care if you're down. All right? And there's no adjustments I could imagine in the world that would make you abandon something that got you 55 yards out of 75 yards. All right? If they made adjustments, we've got to adjust to their adjustments. You know? We can do it. We got 55 yards rushing on one drive. And there weren't even any major breakout runs. We were nickel and diming them down the field and got 55 yards rushing off of it. If you can do that for a whole game, you're going to beat anybody. All right? Worst case scenario, we do what teams did to us last year. We control the time of possession with the run game. All right? We keep Gus Malzahn's offense off the field. We keep our defense off the field. And we score points because we can get 55 yards rushing on a drive. That's basically what everybody else has been doing to us. It's what Florida State did to us. Now, they didn't control the time of possession so much because they were able to score real quick. But Oklahoma last year, Vanderbilt last year, they controlled the time of possession. They kept our offense off the field as much as they could. And they won the games because of it. We had a run game that was working, Now, look, these are scripted plays. All right. These were scripted plays. We came in with these plays ready to go. But you got to stick to it. If you get 55 yards on it on the first drive, you got to stick to it. We need to see this team stick to the run game this week. All right. We need to see this team establish the run game this week and stick to it. All right. I'd like to see 150 yards rushing this week. I think that's a good mark. This day and age of football, I think that's a good mark. 150 is probably a good mark for rushing. I would like to see that this week. Give us 150 yards rushing. Establish that run. Don't go away from it. All right. You're not going to give up your whole playbook by running a bunch of run plays. Show us you can do it. Show us you can sustain it. And finish drives. This is the last offensive point here. You got to finish drives. I want to see us. I don't want to see us kicking any field goals this week. I don't want to see a single field goal. I would like to see us score a touchdown every single time we have the ball this week. That's not something talking about ULM's defense. All right. I don't know that much about ULM's defense. I don't feel like they played an opponent that's going to give us a good look at what their defense is. But I want to see us score touchdowns every single time we have the ball. All right. We got down the field a bunch of times in this game. And yeah, okay, we went for it on fourth down a bunch of times because we were behind. All right. We kicked a couple of field goals. We missed one of them. But look, we had a lot of drives in our own territory or in FSU territory, and we could not get where we needed to go. We could not get into the end zone. We just couldn't. We get to the 30-yard line, the 35-yard line, and our drive would stall out. It happened a bunch. That's why we had so many fourth downs we had to go for. I want to see us do a better job finishing these drives, and not just for field goals. I want to see us finish drives. All right. I don't want to see a single field goal. I'd like to see all touchdowns, and I'd like to see that every time we get the football. All right. This week needs to be about building confidence for our guys. All right. Build confidence on defense, build confidence on offense. I want to see us score a touchdown every single time we have the ball. All right. I want us to dominate this ULM team. All right. The talent should be there to do that. I want to see us dominate them in every phase of the game. Even if it is ULM, I want to see us dominate them in every phase of the game. I want to see us score on every drive. I want to see us score a touchdown on every drive. All right. Because you're going to need an offense that can finish drives throughout the rest of this season. You're not always going to be able to do it. All right. Against a team like ULM, though, you should be able to do it. With the talent we have, you should be able to do that. All right. I want to see us finish drives. All right. These are not, obviously, these are obvious things. These are obvious things, but it's the beginning of the season. As we get further in the season, there's going to be smaller things. There's going to be more niche things that I want to see us improve on. But right now, with a loss like we just took, second game of the year, first home game of the year, I want to see us do what we need to do to dominate this team in every facet. All right, it's that simple. I'm repeating myself a whole bunch here. Let's finish drives. Let's play good defense. Let's stop the run. Let's establish the run. These are very basic things, but we're going to need to be able to do these things later on. And it's going to be a heck of a lot harder to do it later in the season. So we need to see that we can do it now, because we didn't see any evidence that we can do that on last Saturday. We need to see it this Saturday, and we need to see it the week after next too, going into this Georgia game. We got ULM in Wisconsin. We need to see us go out there and dominate these teams in every facet of the game. All right. The last thing here for the players, the last two things really, are the defense and injuries. The defense, I talked about how they need to stop the run. I want to see them hold this team to under 100 yards rushing if they can. I'd like to see that. That'd be great. The main thing is effort. We've got to see more effort from the defense this week. We have to. All right. We've got to see more effort. And we need to see that coming, not just from the players themselves, but from the coaches. We need the coaches to be motivating these guys to show up, even against the ULMs of the world. We got an Eastern Illinois game toward the end of the season. We need to see them just as motivated for those games as they are for the Georgias, for the LSUs. All right. We need to see these guys come out and play motivated. Now, not so motivated that they're going out there and doing stupid stuff and hurting themselves, but motivated enough to go out there and dominate these teams. All right. No more jogging to the football. No more playing scared. All right. Those issues have got to be fixed this week. All right. All right. I'm not gonna belabor that point too much. It's just got to happen. It's got to happen. We need to see that. All right. As far as injuries, all right, I want to see Isaiah Horton come back. I'd like to see him come back. It sounds like he's good to go. It sounds like we'll get Isaiah Horton back this week. So that's a good thing. I'd like to see him bounce back. I'd like to see him have a good game, a good statistical game. I want to see him put up numbers this week. Coming back from injury, that'd be great to see, going forward. Going along with getting more guys involved, I want to see him get into the swing of things, get him involved. I think we were going to get him involved before he went down with injury. I'd like to see us stick with that and get him involved coming back from injury this week. The other guys that are potentially going to come back this week. I haven't heard really anything super set in stone yet, saying they're going to come back. They're keeping it low down right now, so they may not even come back this week. I want to keep my eye out for Jamarian Latham, for him to come back, and of course Ryan Williams. I'm not sure that I expect Ryan Williams to come back from concussion protocol with this kind of turnaround. If he does, that's great. I'd like to see him have a good game if he does. I'm not sure that he will, but I'm going to obviously keep my eye out for it, as will probably the whole United States. Jamarian Latham, he's kind of up in the air too. He sounded like he's making good progress. He sounded like he might play this weekend, but there was nothing definitive. Isaiah Horton, it was a little bit more definitive, sounding like he's probably going to play this week. Sounded like he's probably going to be 100% this week, as a matter of fact. Jamarian Latham, a little bit more up in the air. Just looking for him to come back. We need guys on that defensive line. We need them, especially with Tim Keenan. He's going to be out a couple more weeks. We need people on that defensive line, so we need him to come back. Hopefully he'll be out there. Just keep an eye out for it. All right. Last thing here, we need the fans. We had a rough week last week. All right. It's our first game on Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium this season. We need the fans to come out. We need them to be loud. We need them to support our guys. I'm going to be there. I've been going to games. I said in the Sunday postgame show, I've been going to every home game since I could walk and talk, basically. There are very few games over the years that I've missed at home. We need to see our fans come out and support them. I want to see our students out there. I want to see non-students out there supporting these guys. All right. We need to build this team's confidence back up. All right. So we got to show up for them. All right. I understand we're fed up with what the product we've seen on the field these last 2 seasons. We got to keep coming out there and showing them that we're still behind them. All right. And I think we will. But it needs to be convincing. We need to pack that place out for every game. All right. We need to pack Bryant-Denny Stadium out for every game. This week, like I said, this week is about building confidence in our coaches, building confidence in our guys. The way that we as the fans can do that is by showing up for them, being loud for them. Got to do it, guys. All right. That's all I have for you this week for this weekly preview. I'll be back next week to preview Wisconsin. In the meantime, you guys have a good one. Thank you for watching the Elephant Room.